Kevin, did you want to call the roll, Kevin? You want me to do it?
Sure. Sean Reardon. Not here. Ed Cameron.
Here.
James Conley.
Here.
Kristen Donahue. Gary Gorski. Gary, did you? Thought I admit. I'll come back. Christian Hansen. Christian Hansen.
Christian, you're muted right now for some reason. Okay, now you're unmuted.
Christian Hansen. Okay, Christian, are you able to unmute yourself? Okay.
Now I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
great.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Gary Gorski.
I'm here.
Okay. Sarah Holden. Caroline McCarthy.
Here.
Steve Moore.
Here.
Sarah Spalding.
Here.
Elizabeth Valeriani. Madeline Witten.
Here.
Okay. All right. Jim, would you like to just a few comments about the public comment? Public comment is reserved to items on the agenda, and currently the only item on the agenda is the SOAR exercise. So Jim, if you'd like to open the public comment.
All right, well, let me open the public comment. Please refrain from commenting for more than 2 minutes at a time and focus on the purpose of the meeting. Thank you. Anyone who wants to public comment? I think the only member of the public who looks like to hear is Walt Thompson, but looks like he's muted for some reason. I don't know if
Everyone's muted unless they've asked to be unmuted. So just to be sure, so I'm not sure if we can unmute him to ask him.
well, can he hear us?
Yes.
All right, so Walt, I guess if you want to be unmuted, you have to let us know. Otherwise, you'll just be muted.
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay.
So did you have any comment about this particular session, Walt, or are you all set?
I'm all set. Thank
Okay.
you. Want to see what's happening at home and with Wade.
Sure. So there's no other comment, I guess, Kevin. We can proceed to the meeting.
Okay. Barbara, do you want to just give an explanation of what's going to happen, especially for Mr. Thompson, so he understands that there are going to be periods of time which he's not going to see the board?
Yep. So tonight's activity, the SOAR activity, SOAR stands for Strengths, Opportunities, Aspirations, and Results. And it is a brainstorming exercise during which we're going to have some small breakout groups. The board will be divided into, looks like 2 or 3 groups, and you will brainstorm each of those categories. Then we will come back as a large group and discuss what all of you came up with for ideas. During the time when the breakout groups are being held, that will be only the board members in those breakout rooms, and I will be moving between those groups just to answer any questions. And then when we come back as a large group, everyone will share what was discussed in those breakout groups, and we'll go through each of those categories and come up with a list of ideas. And then at the end of the session, we will wrap up the recording, and I will send you all a survey to ask you to prioritize the things. So tonight we're just brainstorming the ideas, and then there will be a follow-up activity for all the board members, even the ones who aren't here tonight, for them to be able to go through and see, of these strengths, which ones do I personally think are most important. Literally, it's a drag and drop, like flip the ones you think are most important to the top, the ones you think are least important to the bottom. So everyone, even those who weren't able to attend tonight, will have the opportunity to give that. But this is just a brainstorming and planning meeting.
And then once the exercise is over, Barbara will remind you, Jim, to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I will not be present while you are conducting the exercise. So I will provide minutes based on the recording. And I will not do minutes of the SOAR exercise though, just up into the beginning of the exercise. So Barbara, if you're ready to go, I'm going to hand the meeting over to you. And I'm going to stop the share and have a wonderful time in the exercise, folks. I've given it multiple times and participated multiple times. It's a great opportunity to express ideas and aspirations about the library. So again, thank you for participating and have a wonderful evening.
thank you, Kevin.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Barbara Leverus, and I'm a strategic planning consultant. I work with public libraries. They're my bread and butter. I've worked with dozens of them at this point over the course of the last 10 years. I've really enjoyed working with Newburyport. This is actually my third time working with your library on the strategic plans, so it's great to be back again. And for today, we're going to be in what I call blue sky thinking mode, and that we want to get as many ideas as we possibly can about the various categories we're going to be talking about, but we don't want to be constrained by things like worrying about how much something would cost, how much time it would take, how many bodies it would take, only because that's part of the execution of the idea. And I find that when we start putting constraints in the idea, when we're just in brainstorming mode, the ideas get smaller. Sometimes you can have a very large idea that seems very challenging, but you can make incremental progress towards achieving that idea. But if you shut it down originally by saying, oh, we'd never be able to do that because of X, Y, or Z reason, then we don't get the idea on our documentation, and may never follow up on something that's kind of one of those big, hairy, audacious goals to kind of look for. So blue sky thinking mode. There are no right or wrong answers. This isn't a test. We aren't driving to a consensus today. We are going to just come up with some ideas. And then again, as I said, the follow-up activity would be you'll get a survey and you can prioritize them from the privacy of your own computer or device or smartphone, whatever you want to use. And so we don't have to debate which ones we think are accurate or which ones we think are don't. You'll have the opportunity to do that as the follow-up activity. My role is to make sure that we have a productive discussion, that I keep you on from a time perspective, that I'm respectful of your time. My understanding is that we have you until 8:30 this evening. Is that what everyone has on their calendars?
Yep.
Okay, great. So if we get into a situation where we're talking a little too long about any one topic, if I have to interject and say, if you could wrap that up with one more sentence, that would be great. Please don't be offended. It's not that, we don't want to hear all of the stories that are associated with something or additional commentary. I just, again, want to be very respectful of the time. I know this is at the end of a day for many of you who have already done a full day of work, or even if you haven't, evenings can be tiring. So again, we just want to do as much as we can in the time period that we have for us. So I mentioned the handout, which I assume everyone still has. There is one side that has what's called a brainstorming guide on it. If you look at it, one of the joys of working with library people is knowing that they, read. So I'm not going to insult you by reading the whole page for you, but I just want to point out some of the key highlights on this page. In the second section, there's a section that says, as you brainstorm, consider the libraries. And then it lists a series of bullets about various things, various perspectives in the library. This is to make sure sometimes when we're on our own roles, we've got kind of blinders on in terms of this is what your role is in the library, but just think about the library holistically and all of these different kinds of perspectives or different focus areas as we're going through our discussions today. Then for each topic that we're going to discuss, there are some prompts underneath them. For example, under strengths, it says, what is your current greatest strength? That's the question we're going to answer. But that doesn't mean you have to answer all of the questions under there. It's just if you're struggling with any category as we go through, these are things that might, jog your brain to think, in a different way. So these are just to kind of help you if you're challenged with any one of the different categories. Before we go into each breakout group, we'll discuss like what it is we'll be discussing in the breakout group. And then you'll go into a 10-minute session with the group that you're in. Again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to do 2 groups. We don't need 3. And basically what I would ask is that when you first go into your breakout group, if you could pick somebody to be, or volunteer, if people are so generous, to be the recorder for your group, to make sure that all of the great ideas you're discussing actually make it into someone's notes, so that when we come back to talk about it as a large group, sometimes when you start talking about a bunch of things, people get really excited about what they're talking about, and then they forget to write them down, and then they come back and they're like, oh, I can't remember what it was we said. So if you could pick a group reporter, that would be great. Just somebody to, again, take notes on it, so that when we come back as a group, we'll know what to talk about. We're looking for the top 3 to 5 things you're thinking about. We're not looking for a bazillion answers for each of these categories. So again, the top 3 to 5 strengths, the top 3 to 5 opportunities, the top 3 to 5 aspirations. And we'll talk again before each breakout group, and then we'll come back and talk about that particular category. Then we'll go into discuss what the next group next is, because some of them have some nuanced definitions. It might be obvious what you think an opportunity is, but I want to make sure it's clear to everyone when we're talking about what an opportunity is or the aspiration is in the context of this exercise. And everyone, has anyone been in a SOAR before? Raise your hand if you've been in a SOAR exercise before. Okay. Everyone does them a little bit differently, and so there will be things you recognize. Obviously, the end result is kind of same, but we're going to collect all of the information that we got from you all of the feedback we get from you. We'll take the information that we got from the staff. We'll then, with the final results, we'll look at both. It's neither good nor bad. There just might be some differences, but a lot of times we see where there are similarities, so we can identify when we're looking at goals and objectives that we might want to set for the organization. Where are there some common areas of focus? Where are there some differences in terms of things that we need to focus on? So again, we'll take the people who are closest to the library, both the staff's feedback and your feedback, and take that into consideration. Or Kevin will take that into consideration when he and Jessica start drafting the goals and objectives. So again, tonight, breakout groups for 10 minutes, then we'll come back and discuss for each category. Any questions about how that's going to work? Yes, Ed.
Yeah,
Ed,
yeah,
we couldn't see
that was
that.
simply it. Yeah, it's basically said I can't unmute. I run a million Zooms. I think to give us the ability to mute on our own would be good. Otherwise, you're going to hear an occasional coughing fit from me. But anyway, I'm good. I just want to make sure before we split up that I would be able to verbalize.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
I just changed that, so those of you who are on mute should be able to unmute yourselves
Thank you.
now at this point. So feel free to do that.
Seems
It's
clear.
oftentimes
Thank you.
you're very welcome. All right, so again, I'm gonna just break you into breakout groups, and first thing is pick your note taker and then have a conversation. I will visit the breakout groups if there are any questions or anything I can help with as we go through. If we finish before the 10 minutes, great, we'll come back and we'll discuss things from that point. But we'll make sure that both of the groups are done before we pull everyone back. So again, any final questions before we go into the group? So the first thing is just strengths. What are we currently good at? What's on our existing toolbox? What would the community say we are great at now? So this is really kind of where, for our current status, what do we think we're really good at? All right, great. Hold on just a minute. I'll put you into the Zoom is always changing when all of these things are. Just 2 seconds. And here we go. So Walt, there's going to be about 10 minutes, just so you know, there'll be about 10 minutes while they're having their small group discussions, and then we'll all come back and discuss what went on in those small groups. So just to let you know what's going on. Right, had a bit of technical difficulties on my end. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to discuss what each of you came up with in your groups. So I know that Madeline was doing it for group 2, and I think Christian, were you doing it for group 1?
Yes, I was.
Taking? Great. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just kind of thought between the two of you. Christian, I'm going to ask what is the first thing on your list, and I'll record that. And then we're going to go to Madeline and then ask Madeline what the first thing on their list that we haven't already discussed. So we're kind of going to round robin it without duplicating things. So that way you can kind of capture as many as we can. So Christian, what was the first thing your group came up with in terms of library's current strengths? Okay, so now. This is like a comedy of.
Still don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. First thing that we're the library is valued in the community. So it's seen as a community asset.
Great. Madeline, what was the first thing? Oh, I should also give a disclaimer for my typing. I will correct everything. It's just sometimes my fingers don't move as quickly as my brain does. So you might see typos, but they will be caught. Christian, what was the first thing that you all came up with?
So yeah, we put we were talking about just sort of welcoming and knowledgeable staff and just sort of environment overall when you enter the library.
Okay, so do you mean the physical environment or you just mean the attitudinal environment?
I guess I'll just say attitudinal environment.
Okay. So welcoming, so if I say welcoming environment and knowledgeable staff, is that
Sure.
that
yeah.
accurate?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Perfect. Christian, back to you.
Christian, you're on mute.
I do not know why it keeps.
I couldn't unmute myself. Yes, so this was from Caroline. A large building, large collected, a large staff, long hours. So it was a whole bunch of large things: building,
Okay.
collection, staff, and hours.
Okay. So staff different from knowledgeable and welcoming staff? Are we talking about a large staff, like the
We're
size
talking
and
about
quantity?
this. This
A
is
whole bunch of things
large.
that are large, yeah.
Large things, yeah. So you can do
Okay.
kind of bullet point 3, large buildings, comma, large collections, large staff, large array of available hours.
Okay. Madeline.
So this one was more about the physical space, which maybe is similar to saying large building, but we were just saying how the location of the library is a strength. That's right downtown. It's these big open rooms and areas, lots of space in the library.
Okay, so it's the location of the building, but also the space inside, the interior.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, how did you classify or categorize the interior space? Just large and what were you saying?
Yeah, sort of open, well designed.
Okay, great. Christian, back to you.
We talked about that as well, and adding to the location, we talked about accessibility and how it is equally accessible to everyone.
Okay, so again, for accessible, just because accessible is kind of expanded to easy access to materials. So we're talking about specifically the physical access or just accessibility in general?
I was the one who said that. I think it's easy to park at. It's easy to walk to because it's downtown for a lot of citizens and it's on a bus line.
Okay. Okay. All right, Madeline.
We talked about the children's room, saying that the materials and the programming that the staff, as well as the staff in the children's room, it's a strength.
Great. Good. Christian.
We talked about the programming. Sorry, I'm trying to find the programming, the various amounts and types of programming.
Okay. Adeline.
We talked about that as well, so I'll skip that one. But we also talked about the archival center and how this is something unique to the Newburyport Library to offer such a sort of valued collection in the archives.
So do you want me to put unique archival center or?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Christian?
The outreach between, specifically noted, was between schools and the senior center.
Madeline?
That was all of ours.
Okay. Christian, anything else on your list that we want to capture?
We had one last one, which was of special note, was the effort with the city social worker. I thought that was a big strength.
It's interesting, a lot of libraries are starting to look at that because they realize that they are a place that people go to for information and resources, and sometimes having access directly to somebody who can refer people to services they need, hours or doing presentations or whatever, can be very helpful for both the staff as well as the city and the people who need the services. So that's great to hear. Good. All right, so good list of a well-rounded list of everything from staff to the physical space to what you're doing in the space with the programming, even outreach and relationships. So this is a really good list. Thank you. All right, so the next category we're going to talk about is opportunities. And for tonight's discussion, we're not talking specifically about the opportunity to run a specific program or to do a specific activity. We're talking larger, broader, expansive about like what kinds of needs there are, what kinds of interests there are that we might want to meet. So it's not about how we're going to execute on that. It's more like what kinds of opportunities we see to expand, improve, grow, or meet a need that isn't being met. There could be changes going on in your community, demographic changes, or you know, shifts up or down in particular populations. Things that are going on that will impact the library. And sometimes there are things that are going on that, while they don't overtly look positive, they can be viewed as for example, this is not something I would recommend as an opportunity going forward, but obviously COVID would not have been on anyone's list of an opportunity in terms of a pleasant or positive experience. However, it did present libraries with the opportunity to show how agile they were, how innovative they were, how they could respond to a situation and continue operating when virtually every other organization had to shut down. So sometimes things that are negative could position the library in a way that they could add a service or add value to the community in a way that wasn't thought of before. So, you know, example, some libraries are being used as like cooling centers or things like that. So again, not a positive. So if there is something negative or potentially critical that's happening, it could be an opportunity for the library to meet a new need or provide a new service. So again, broad strokes on what an opportunity is in terms of our definition here. In that follow-up survey that you're going to get, there will be the opportunity to give specific ideas if you have like a program you think the library should offer, or, you know, collection material or something. But again, for tonight's purposes, it's broader than that. Needs, interests, gaps in service, etc. Any questions about what an opportunity is in the context of our discussion tonight? Okay, so we're going to go back into the breakout room again for 10 minutes, and then we will come back as a group and discuss them. Here did we lose someone? I've got somebody drop out. So I've got Jim, Sarah, and Steve. Did you have another person in your group? All right.
Yeah, Madeline.
Madeline's here, yeah.
I wonder why she isn't listed in.
She's right there though on the screen.
I can see, I
Madeline.
can see her. I know she was a note taker too. It's just she's not. Something weird is happening with Zoom tonight. I will make sure that Madeline, you end up in the right room. Here we go. Excuse me. All right, so everyone should be able to start their video and unmute themselves and all of those good things. I'm not sure why Zoom continues to ask me for every time we go in and out of a meeting or a small group, but here we go. All right. So I heard some good conversations about various things that the library might want to pursue in terms of opportunities. So we're going to continue how we did it the last time. And we're going to start with Madeline this time. Madeline, what was the first thing on the list of opportunities that your group came up with?
We had sort of opportunity to, I mean, it's sort of in process, but we were just sort of thinking of the volunteer program and feeling like right now that's sort of something that we're exploring new opportunities for.
So would you say we want to just strengthen the volunteer program? Is that what we're saying? Enhance, expand? What? Tell me the language that you guys would feel comfortable with in terms of how you want to express that.
Well, right now there isn't. So we're hoping when it resumes that it will allow the volunteers to be productive in whatever they're doing.
So is that accurate? The need to revitalize the volunteer program? Just, I don't want to force words. I don't want to express it in a way that isn't saying what you mean. Is that accurate? No?
And we've had many discussions about the volunteer program, and it seems like everything that we think volunteers can do ends up being a union job. So what we need to figure out is something.
Okay.
That's why we struggled with this.
So is it about developing a volunteer program and without putting any caveats about what that means or what that is? Is that a more comfortable way?
That works for me. Does that make sense?
Develop a volunteer program that meets everyone's needs, I think might.
Everyone's needs. Okay, great. Thank you. Christian.
This was an opportunity was to determine the ways that the library can connect with people who aren't current library users. So swath of the population that just doesn't use it, and this is a real opportunity to broaden our wings and bring them in.
Okay. Great. Determine the ways the library can connect with non-users. Yay. The elusive non-users. Madeline.
We had, in terms of thinking about possible new user groups, we were thinking of refugee families in the area.
Okay. Christian?
Caroline can probably help me with this one, but reaching those ebook readers where they are. Caroline, do you want to add a little more to that? No.
Just that I think that the world is shifting to ebooks and the library needs to as well.
If I say increasing interest in ebooks, meaning that's the opportunity, what we do with that or how we meet that. Okay, great. Caroline, thank you for that. Okay. Madeline.
So this one, maybe Jim, you can help me if I say things wrong, but we were just sort of talking about the Archives Center and opportunity to, help users sort of access information in the Archive Center. I don't know if I said that right.
So
they have solid expertise down there, so they know the answers to questions. You know, when somebody asks a question, they've been spending time working on things so they can answer it, like where John Quincy Adams practiced law, for example. Those kinds of questions.
Is the formal name Archival Center or Archive Center? I just want to make sure I accurately reflect what it is.
I think it's archival.
Okay. So if I say need for expertise in the archival center, is that accurate? Does that, Jim, does that capture what you meant there?
Yeah, I think someone who really knows what they're doing there. I mean, that's always
Okay.
been a strength, and so hopefully we'll get back to that point.
Okay, great. Christian,
Um, the opportunity to create a co-working space with more work from home, perhaps a co-working space or the like.
create a co-working space. So you have more people working from home, create a co-working space. There were some more words. I just want to make sure I captured everything.
I think that's it. I mean, Ed,
Okay.
you want to share
Yeah,
any?
I think that's more or less it. And again, it's with COVID, a lot of people working remotely or hybrid. I've gone a couple of times. There's at least one or two kind of rooms where you could actually have a meeting and it's not going to bother other people because it's all kind of noise suppressed. But I think a lot of people are looking for, live in small places, don't have a lot of room. Also could be a revenue, I think people would be willing to pay something for that. I think there are some places that probably rent out, little offices downtown where people can work when they can't do it at home. So anyway, I just think it's something to look at.
Okay. So some of the things when I'm putting in the parentheses are to just add context to whatever you're discussing is, some of the things they're saying are actual ideas of ways you could meet that need, like there, or that opportunity. So we'll make sure that we capture both of those. Great. Madeline.
We were sort of talking about sort of the daily communication of the library, and in some ways I think the library does provide across a range of platforms information, but we thought maybe there was opportunity just to there might be other ways to kind of increase sharing information about what activities are happening.
Increase information about what is happening at the library. So is that accurate? Need to increase information about what is happening at the library?
Yeah, I think that
You can go ahead, Jim.
Are you asking me?
Oh, whoever.
That was Steve, I think,
well,
started to say something.
I think that covers it. I mean, we know that there are ways in which the library is communicating, but perhaps not everybody knows what they are and
Okay.
has access to them.
Yeah, I just said walking by, I see these things happening on the library bulletin board outside in the street when I walk by there a lot, but I didn't get it in my email. I mean, and I'm really not on social media that much. So, how do people know about that stuff happening, I guess?
Okay. So some of that is educating people about ways to learn about the library offerings.
Right.
And then also there's also the actual tools or the platforms that are used to communicate that. Okay. Great. Christian.
Yeah, definitely on that. It was just getting social media or newspaper or whatever it might be. The opportunity to open up the library and make it more of a social hub. Some of the suggestions were food trucks, music hour, some evening events, just to draw people in an untraditional, non-traditional way.
Okay. So interested in opening up the library for social gatherings? Is that what we're saying? For community gatherings? I just want to make sure.
I think
I mean,
both, yeah, both community, social.
Okay. So, okay. Great. Madeline?
I think the last thing that I was thinking about was actually sort of in number 8. Like I think I was just thinking about how people can be more isolated, and so the library could be a place for yeah, to find community or to interact in person with your community. So I guess sort of going along with what Christian shared.
Okay. So if I say need to offset social isolation, or what was the language that you guys came up with? I picked out social isolation just because I
Yeah,
heard the
that
term.
that works. Yeah.
Okay. So that would be another example of socialization, not necessarily a good thing, but a positive, the library can have a positive, impact on that by helping people connect. Yes, great. Christian, other things from your group?
Yeah, just a few more. We thought about idealizing the library as the gateway to city services. Since people go there already, kind of been saying like, you need X, Y, or Z, we have resources that can point you in that direction.
Okay, so there's a need to provide resources that direct people to
I think,
city resources?
yeah, I think kind of the short way of saying that is viewing the library as the gateway to city services.
Okay, so here's the situation where it's like serving as a gateway to city services, kind of like the end result. What need are we trying to meet by doing that? It's slightly nuanced, but I mean, that's why I'm like, is there a need or an interest? Or we just want to provide resources to direct people to city services? You see what I mean?
I do, yeah. Gary, this was your thought. Do you want to expand a little more on that?
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking was kind of a bit of item number 3, potential new user groups, including refugees. There are a lot of people that are maybe like on the margins here in Newburyport that people don't assume or whatever, maybe, don't realize are living with us. And are there ways that we could connect more with that kind of community, those communities? With the byproduct of we introduce them to these free materials that we have, but also they could also access city services by getting to view the library as a place where they go, where they feel welcome, where they're included.
Okay. So if I say there's a need to provide resources that direct people to city services, especially vulnerable community members, because they might be more in need, is that accurate?
Yeah, and maybe not even vulnerable, but like less visible.
Okay.
People that work here in Newburyport, but maybe they don't speak English as a first language. So I guess, that's kind of what we were thinking.
Okay. Right. All right. Other things that come up or anyone has to offer? Christian, I don't know if more things for your group. Madeline, anything for your group, or anyone else have anything they think we should add to the list of opportunities?
We had one more, or actually
Yeah.
2 more. Actually, one more
Yeah.
was promoting the Library of Things as a resource, and perhaps partnering with DPW or DPS for even more non-traditional items like shovels and pitchforks and rakes and wheelbarrows, things like that. And again, maybe not the right category.
That's okay. Partnering with, and I'm sorry, the acronym I'm just not familiar with.
Department of Public Services.
Oh, okay.
The city.
Okay. Promoting the library things, partnering with her too. And so the goal with the partnering would be to have them contribute more things to that, or to increase that collection?
Yeah, currently the Library Things is like hotspots and like projectors and things like that. And Gary had mentioned that, you perhaps like seed bank or baking pans on one end. And then if people are needing to borrow a shovel or use a wheelbarrow or something like that, obviously the library wouldn't have that, perhaps the city would, but the library could foster that that ability to borrow.
Seed banks are wildly popular, especially this time of year when they're carrying out that are happening. But tools, baking utensils, musical instruments, interesting things like ukuleles. Who knew that those could be, so popular? Anyway, okay, great. Anything else that anyone wants us to capture on our list of opportunities? Okay. So you can see that any one thing on here could lead to several activities associated with pursuing that particular opportunity. So again, these are big and broad and provide some, direction in terms of areas of focus, but they don't get into how we'd actually execute or the specific tasks associated with that. So keep these in mind. So refer to these when we go back into our next small breakout group, which is to discuss aspirations. And aspirations are, literally the strategic goals, not the business goals. Like oftentimes I correlate, these are those multi-year at the end of our term with us, right? What do we want to have as the result of our activities? What do we want to be known for? What do we want people to say about us? So if we assume that we have worked on all of these things, what would we hope our status would be? You talked about being a gateway to city services. Maybe one of the aspirations is serve as a gateway to city services. And it can be, as I've had groups say things like they want to be recognized as, the best library in Massachusetts, whatever it is. It can be as grandiose if you want it to be, but it should definitely be aspirational. Anything that you put on your aspiration list is not to say that what you're doing in this particular focus area now is not good. It's just that you want to be even better, improved, whatever, with at the end of the strategic plan. But even beyond that, so if there are aspirations, sometimes there are aspirations that it takes more than one term of a strategic plan. I work with groups that are looking at huge renovations or new buildings or something, and there's like a 10-year ladder of activities that kind of need to do that. So think of things that are big, but also things that you want to accomplish by the end of the term. So again, these are aspirations for the library. Any questions about what an aspiration is or further definition that would be helpful for that? What do we want to be? If people came up to you and said, what is the library in 4 years from now or 5 years, what would you want them to say? And look specifically at some of these opportunities. Like if we were to pursue this opportunity, what would the end result of our activities be? What would our status be on any one of these things as we go through? So again, refer to your opportunities that you came up with the group and then see if you were to address that particular need, what would you hope would be the end result of that? Okay. Great. Let me hit save. Always worried about that. And we'll go back in the group. Here we go. All right, let me share my screen. Here we go. All right. Madeline, are you doing, or did you tag team Sarah in to be, are you still the recorder for your group?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What aspirations did you guys come up with? First one.
So the first phrase that sort of popped into my head was just being a vital resource for the community.
All right. Be a vital community resource. Perfect. Christian.
We talked about a coordinated plan for that was consortium wide. Caroline, do you want to add more on that?
Yeah, well, the dream is that you can go to the library and get anything at all. And I think creating a consortium-wide collection development plan would allow people to share the burden of some of the less circulated items, and then everyone would have access to it and no one would have the burden of holding all of it. But I want to be able to get anything at all. That's the dream.
Are we talking about physical things in terms of like books, library things, any of those kinds of things? I'm just trying to.
Well, in my mind, I'm thinking books, but really, if it's a dream, I want people to be able to get anything. Sure, anything.
Like a DPS shovel?
Yes.
But not from Newburyport, from Waltham.
So if I say you can get anything you need at the library.
Want anything you want. Yeah.
Anything you want.
Yes.
At the library. And then the example that would consortium-wide coordinated plan to inventory share
Love it.
items, whatever those may be, materials. Great. All right. Perfect. Madeline, aspiration for your group.
We had to be a leading center for historical research in the state.
Ooh.
Serve as a leading center for historical research in the state. All right. Christian.
This is kind of building on what we did before, but we want the library to be the first stop for new residents, that they recognize it as one of the best assets in town.
It's amazing to me when we're doing like focus groups of various communities and everything, how many people they look at the school districts and they look at the libraries to determine whether the town is actually committed to the types of things that are education or, you know, things for all ages and activities and everything. So good, be the first stop for new residents. They recognize as being one of the library as being one of the best assets in town. Good. Madeline.
We aspired to, or I guess we would like to continue to be a well-funded library.
So it's a state of being. So we want to be a well-funded library. We are now, but we want to make sure that we still are. Yep. That's, you know, the reality is we need to have funds to be able to do what we need to do. So great. Christian.
We want to have building integrity. So risks of flood or other building compromising events are not so dramatic.
Have you guys had flooding recently? Is that where this is coming from? Okay.
There's typically like annual flooding, and last year it threatened the archival center. And,
Oh, no. Okay, so building compromising events are not so dramatic. All right. So we want to have building integrity. Great, good. Madeline,
Maybe you can help me with wording with this one, but we had aspiring to expand adult and teen programming.
so if we did expand teen and adult programming, what would the end result of that be?
Right. A
More teen and adult program.
a broad range of adult and teen programming.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, if we did that, are we saying that we're going to be offering program that serves, you know, everyone at all ages? Are we saying that, because offering a budget is still kind of like, that's a tactic or that's an activity or a task that we would do. And if we did that, what would, again, I hate to go back to it, but like, what would the result of that being? Just that we offer a robust, you know, assortment of adult and teen programming, you know, opportunities? I don't know. I mean, I can leave it, offer a broad range of adult and teen programs, but that doesn't necessarily get us to where the end result is. That's a means to an end versus the actual end. Anyone have any language?
If the wording was broaden the range, is that closer to what you're thinking?
Well,
That
then
could,
we're in,
that could be the aspiration, right? We want to offer more of these types of programs.
okay. Or we could just say offer a broad range of adult and teen programs. I mean, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. I mean, broaden the range, that works for me, whatever you think is good. So if you're okay with that, we can leave that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that meets the need.
All right. Christian,
We have aspirations for everyone to feel like their needs are being met, and that some of the current issues that the library is facing return to more of a state of homeostasis.
do we want to add the homeostasis, or we just want to have everyone feels like their needs are being met?
I'm fine with just everyone feels like their needs are being met. And I actually, let me just add and say like that everyone's, and I think it's aspirational, everyone's needs are being met, not just that they feel like their needs are being met.
Yep, everyone's needs are met. Okay. So everyone's needs are met? Are people comfortable with that? Anything else that we want to do to that tweak? Great. Madeline, another aspiration for you all?
So I guess the aspiration was that a large percent of the Newburyport population would be aware of everything the library has to offer. So yeah, I don't know if there's a better way to word it, but sort of that it wouldn't just be a small percentage. Yeah, maybe
You could always say all.
Yeah,
the
all,
library's
yeah.
offering. All community members are aware of the library's offerings. They may or may not use them, but they're aware of what the library offers.
Right.
If they're aware of them, do we want to, because we've got someone, we want to be a vital community resource. Several of these things obviously dovetail, you know, nicely into each other. So there's some overlap, but that's okay because they are distinct in terms of their, you know, being the first stop for residents, being recognized as one of those. So we want them to, they have to be aware of that. That is an aspiration towards some of those other things. If they're not aware of it, it's hard to be viewed as a vital community resource. Okay, great. Christian, or Ed, did you raise your hand? Did you have something you wanted to say or no? Okay, sorry. See, I would be a horrible virtual auctioneer. I'd be like sold to Ed for 500,000. Christian.
The last one we had was we aspire to have more available space, i.e. a parking lot. Gary said he wanted a pony as well. Don't push that in.
So if we say the library space meets the community's needs without defining like what that is, and we can put like parking, you know,
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Parking and meeting rooms.
okay, parking, meeting rooms. Because that leaves you kind of a lot of flexibility to determine what that is. Because some could say, well, you could reconfigure space without having to grow space to meet it. So this gives you like kind of flexibility to grow, reconfigure, do whatever you think to optimize the space. Okay, meeting room. All right, Madeline, anything else from your group?
No.
Christian, anything else from yours?
That's it for us.
Does anyone else have any other aspirations they want us to capture on the list? Any other big, if I said, what was your like one thing you want the library to accomplish? Or say like, what would it be? You want it to be recognized as a what? You've got some of those already. You want it to serve as a what? And let me remind you of your opportunities that you came up with. Like if we were to pursue these opportunities, what would we hope the end result would be? Some of these obviously do connect to your aspirations, which is great. Okay. What about, I'll just pull one out for sure, like increasing interest in ebooks. If we were to, well, I guess that could be, you can get anything you want. It could be, because it could be digital. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. All right. We'll run with this list. Good. This will not be your only bite of the apple. When you get the prioritization survey, it will present the list that we came up with, and it will also ask you, are there any additional aspirations that you think we should capture in our results? So if tonight you wake up at midnight and you're like, oh, we should have talked about this. I wish I had said this. Don't worry about it. You will have another opportunity. Gonna kill that word opportunity tonight to add that to our list. So this isn't, again, your only chance to do this. Sometimes
can we just go back and look. Oh, can we go back and look at the opportunities just for a minute?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, so we said develop a volunteer program that meets everyone's needs.
Mm-hmm.
So the aspiration for me would be, let's say, a well-working volunteer program. I don't know if that's the right wording, but
We could say, well, I'll let you guys say, if you like that wording, we can stick with it, unless anyone has any other ways they think we could express that. We could say maintain, so that it's a state of being do we want to use big word like a thriving volunteer program? So there's I've said like inspire or a vibrant, or do we just want it to be well working? I don't know how emotive you want the statement to be. I'm fine with it. The words, you guys tell me. Gary, you took yourself off mute. Did you have an idea you wanted to offer, or am I just being
no? Maybe words like welcoming or inclusive.
yes, that works.
Instead of well working, or in addition to?
Instead of. I think it's better wording.
Okay.
And Gary's an editor.
There you go. Oh, see, Gary, you should be. There we go. So instead of me trying to Frankenstein, or we should be like, Gary, your turn. Great. Maintain an inclusive volunteer program. Great. So it assumes it's there, but we're just going to maintain it. Any other aspirations we want to capture? No? Okay. All right, so the last category we're going to talk about is results, and we're going to do that as a large group together, instead of having to kind of do a breakout group, because I think that there's some synergies that happen when we talk about things. So here are 11 things that we have for an aspiration. One of the things that always needs to be taken into consideration is, it's great to have the aspiration, but how will we know when we're making progress towards that aspiration, or when we've met that aspiration, so that we can move on to new ones? So we're going to assume that all of the things that are currently tracked all the circulation stats, all the website usage stats, those kinds of things. They're going, program attendance, those things will continue to be tracked. But we're wondering, are there specific things that we want to have result-wise that will tell us that we're, being viewed as a vital community resource, that people feel that they can get anything at the library? And so there can be quantitative things. There can be a number up or down that we want to track for something. It could be qualitative things like just opinions that are coming in. It could be anecdotal things. It could be observations. But this is an opportunity to kind of say, okay, hey, if these are the aspirations that we want to meet, these are the things that we think we should be tracking to make sure that we know that we are making progress in the right direction for these particular aspirations. So as you look at this list, is there a result, something that you think we should track, measure, etc., that we would want to put on our list to make sure that we were definitely capturing this information going forward to making sure that we're meeting a goal? Some things could be yes, no, it's binary choice, either it's happening or it's not. And then again, other things might be quantifiable, either by number or percent, or again, opinion based. Let's start with sort of an easy one. We don't have to go through all of them, but we're just getting some ideas. Like, how will we know if we're a well-funded library? What would be something that would give us an indication that that is a real, true fact?
We maintain our state certification.
Yep. What else?
Increased membership in the Friends.
Yep. What else?
Librarians can count on appropriate raises that I don't know if that's even something we can do, but like that librarians aren't looking to move somewhere else because there's no opportunity to gain for upward mobility, and along with that, financial incentives to do so.
Do we want to say then that the metric would be like low turnover or something like that, or and high retention, something like that? That would be an indicator in terms of staff satisfaction.
Competitive wages.
So that would be an aspiration. What would tell us if that, what would be, so that would be like, low or high retention, staff retention would hopefully be an indication that they believe they're receiving competitive wages. Excuse me, I have to cut.
You're muted. You're muted, Barbara.
Oh yes, my cough. So anything else about funding that we think would be a result that we would want to track?
Increases in the appropriated budget from the city.
Annually or just generally?
I guess annually makes sense.
Okay. So,
and I'd like to just add to that, beyond what's required by union contract, because we have no say in that.
okay. So we want, annual increases in the town budget. Good. All right.
City
Budget.
City,
City budget.
sorry. Yeah, that's right. You guys are a city. You're correct. I am incorrect. Thank you. Well, now I need to. All right. So again, here are the list of aspirations. Are there other things that we should track? And they may contribute to multiple aspirations. It might not just be like a one-off. I just happen to pick funding because that's typically somewhat interesting. But some of these are kind of feeling or an emotional response to the library or an indication, but how could we track to know that these things are real? How would we know that everyone's needs are met? You know, like how would we know that people feel that the library is a vital community resource? What do we think?
Well, certainly in attendance, if we have more people coming in. It's an indicator that either more people are in town or that more people are finding it as a resource. Circulation, certainly for if we have an initiative around Library of Things or consortium-wide collection, that there's high circulation statistics.
Okay.
Increase
So,
in new library cards.
one of the things that was mentioned in one of the groups that I think when I was floating through is, or may have been the large group, like the percent of people who actually, of community members who actually use the library. I mean, you could say there's the number of new library cards, but maybe you want a certain percentage of the households in, you know, the city to have a library card. I mean, you could do something like that. You could track that. You know, how many cards do you have? Is that something like? Would that be something of value, or just trying to get at some of the things I heard when you guys were talking?
I
If
think
it's
they'll
not a
take
valuable
it to know. You know, what percentage of the households in Newburyport have library cards?
Okay. So let me spin back up here again. Anything else? What else should we track?
People from outside Newburyport who use our library.
Non-local users. I call that being a magnet library. You attract people from other communities to come because your library offers things that are special. All right. Okay. Let me spin back up here.
Fewer angry letters in the newspaper about the library.
Yeah, I was gonna say track complaints. Guess that's related.
Reduce number of complaints. We could just say number of complaints, or low number of complaints. You'll never get rid of everyone who's complaining, but we want to make sure that we minimize that. But that would be an indication, you know, people's needs are being met, that people are feeling like it's an inclusive, you know, organization. Everyone's need, you know, yeah, okay.
And then the flip of that would be positive mentions in the paper or social media.
Yes. Number positive reference in the media. Great. Other things? How will we know that the space meets the community's needs? So I'm looking at the facility ones. We have building integrity and we have that the space meets.
There's no waiting list. People don't have to wait on a list or get denied access to a room or a service.
And we could say low number of complaints could be parking. The complaints generally also about like parking, like people complaining about not having parking. But what
I don't know
else?
if there's a way to track it, but more visits by people with physical limitations. In terms of an accessibility, the library is more physically accessible to visitors with limitations.
Also, it's interesting. A lot of libraries are looking at there's the physical mobility of just getting in and around the library, but there's also if people have vision problems, like is your signage the right size? Is it at the, you know, the right eye levels? Are books on the right shelves? All those kinds of things. So that's a great, you know, indicator. If you have more people coming in who have physical limitations, and some of these things, again, it can be, a quantitative number, but it could also be, observational. You track over a certain period of time and people are ticking a box or something like that. Anything else?
We track the number of flooding.
I say if we track the number of floods,
Yeah,
what aspiration would that that we're making progress on?
I guess if there were 0 to track, then there would be building integrity. Yeah.
Or well, okay, so you're getting to what I think could be a metric in terms of like, reduced, I don't know if it's reduced number of, crisis-based repairs. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think about what you would actually track. Like if the number of floods isn't
Insurance
necessarily.
claims.
Oh, yeah, here you go.
Or hours lost, like if the building had to close or a section of the building had to be closed.
Okay. All right. Other thing, how will we know that we're serving as a leading center for historical research in the state? Some of these may sort of like, use of non-local users. If you're in the state, you could be attracting people from other communities to come in to use your. But I just, I'm trying to call out, like, are there specific things that we would want to track particular to the historical research status in the state?
I think if you tracked the number of users and phone calls, perhaps would be,
For the archival center.
yeah.
So do you, just for my edification, do you actually accept phone calls from people who are looking for information from your archival center? Like you actually help people with that research?
Yes.
Wow. That's a huge service. Nice. Yeah, I would think that would be fun. Okay. Anything else that we want to track? What about we have staff retention, so we have staff satisfaction kind of there, number of visitors, low number of complaints. Anything else that we want to try to, like, community wise, in terms of community satisfaction with the library? That could be a survey, that could be, the focus, like non-strategic planning related focus groups or something like that, informal or formal stuff. Yeah,
Barbara,
Gary?
could I ask add an aspiration?
Yeah.
Something along the lines of serve as a hub for local creatives so that we could promote art or poetry or something like that. And then in terms of tracking that, like as a metric, we could have the number of, showings or
Readings.
the number of pieces of artwork or events that we hosted that allow people to present their creative work.
Okay. So the number of creative, I said arts just to kind of be, all inclusive showings and events. Is that, Gary, how you would want to express that?
Yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking, right? Like installations or performances or,
Yep.
And would these be ones that took place at the library or anywhere in town?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I was thinking like the library serves as the hub for that, either hosting them or coordinating with creatives so that they could find a venue.
I mean, we could delineate and say number of library hosted or co-hosted. I mean, it could be an offsite thing, but the library could support with a collaboration or something, another, local artistic group or something. But are we saying this is specifically on the library's property or digital footprint?
I mean, I would be fine with either. either hosted or coordinated.
You guys are active in the, maybe I'm dating myself, but the Newburyport Literary Festival, I think it's coming up, in fact. Do you have things that happen on site for that? So even though that's a community-wide event, do you do things at the library for that? Would that be kind of an example? I know that's specific to creative writing related things, or nonfiction. Okay, I think that's self-explanatory. All right. Anything else that we want to capture in terms of results, or last column strengths or opportunities or aspirations? I tapped your brains, like sucked all of the ideas out of your head for these areas.
Yeah, I'm empty.
Okay. Well, it's about the time of the evening where that happens to everyone. So I appreciate your forbearance. Okay. So again, I will take these, I'll clean up any typos or text. I won't change the meaning or the context of anything. But if there's a language cleanup, JSON, just type in quickly. I will clean those up and put them in the survey. My goal is to get the survey out to you by Monday. Hopefully, maybe Friday. It depends. I need some stuff from Kevin first. But again, it will present each of these categories, ask you to review them and drag and drop which ones you think are most important to the top, the ones you think are least important. Really focus on the top like 3 to 5. Like when we're looking at a list of 12 things, once you kind of hit the bottom spectrum, it's not that those things aren't important, but they're not as weighty as you making sure that the ones at the top are really the ones you want at the top. And the results, you might be like, well, there's 17 of these. What, they're all kind of equal in weight, but are they? Like is the approval and annual increases in the city budget the same weight as knowing, there's no waiting list for rooms of services? That would be, a judgment call on your end. Which of those things do you think would be most important in terms of indicator about how the library is doing, making progress towards those aspirations? You'll have a week to fill it out, and then I will take, again, your information and the staff's information, put together in a summary report for you. I believe Kevin is going to have me also ask those extra questions I said. You'll be asked something to the effect of, if you could do one thing with the facility, what one change would that be, kind of thing, just in terms of a potential renovation or improvement, or do you have ideas for programs or collections-based things that you would want the library to pursue? What do you think, are there any other comments or anything else we should consider as we're drafting the strategic plan? Kind of like the bucket question, like anything else you want to tell us, then, here's a good place to capture it. And again, the aspirations and the opportunities are really helpful when we're drafting the goals. So you'll see these come back, in maybe different language or maybe consolidated in some different ways to kind of contribute to how those goals are reviewed. There'll be things I'm sure that Kevin and Jessica and the staff have already on their list, or that they've heard from community members that they want based on the community survey. So, which, just to let you know, your community survey just launched, the last few days or something, and you have been flooded. Your response rate has been very, very high. So that's terrific. You've already, I think, met the goals that Kevin set for, I said, give me a baseline goal of how many responses you want, and then, tell me what your stretch goal would be. So we are getting great traction with that. So that's good. If you know anyone who hasn't filled it out, please share the link. We're also running, the teen one as well. So both of those we're hoping to get great responses for, but I was very impressed with how quickly everyone is responding. Anyway, this exercise, I hope you thought it was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was good to kind of get things that you want to think about the library. If you think about something you want to send me just to kind of have me collected, and you don't want to wait for the survey, or you're just so eager to get it off your thing, it's like tag teaming somebody else when you have an idea and you're like, now it's in her hands, she needs to put it. I'm putting my email address in the chat window, so please feel free to send me any additional ideas you want me to capture, or any comments or any feedback. Please feel free. I encourage you to do so. As I said at the very beginning, when those of you who you all showed up like on time and started, we actually have extra time, which is almost unheard of in this. So you guys were rock stars, you know, in terms of how you do this. You came up with a really great list. Sometimes I work with a group and you'll see that they're very focused on particular, aspects of a library. Your list of things that you think the library should be focusing on was very broad, which is great because that's better. It's a more holistic, well-rounded look at what the library is and can be. So I want to thank you very much for your time. And before we depart, I know that I am supposed to remind someone to make a motion to adjourn. But before that, are there any final questions, any things for me before I let you kind of close out your own meeting? No? Okay. Please
I
feel
get a
free.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I guess we're not supposed to do that, but I think it'll work. All right,
Thank you,
then.
Barbara.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yes,
thank
thank
you,
you.
everyone. Have a great rest of the
Barbara.
evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Aye.